Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. We are live on Twitch and YouTube, and you can watch this podcast. Just search at Tom and Dan Live, like and subscribe. We'd love to have you.
Welcome back to A Corporate Time. We have a guest in studio, and before we get to our guest...
Yeah. Do we have like business to do here?
No,
we're live on Twitch and YouTube. I need to do a better job when we come back from breaks of reminding you guys that you can watch our podcast because it's pretty darn good. I'm happy with it.
I would just like to congratulate Daniel and I for becoming the number one art podcast in Orlando. We are Orlando's art podcast now.
I don't know. The tide of art in Orlando rises and sets with us. I think I messed that all up.
Yeah.
You and I are like no one appreciates art like we do. No one supports the art community like we do.
That's true.
No one supports the gay community like we do.
Yes.
The LGBTQ+. No one supports the African American community like we do. Nobody offers up more of their artistic jokes and true thoughts of their inner core, and no one gives more to Orlando than we do. It is a travesty that these so-called politicians and these so-called journalists, if you want to even use that term, do these lists of 50 most powerful people, and we're never on them, even though we are slaves to Orlando and we live for the city, and we are the true champions of art in this town.
It's like Jelly Roll and Post Malone being the new face of country music.
Exactly. I know
it makes a lot of people mad.
Rattles you, but guess what? Me and my pal Jelly Roll here. You're Jelly. You're Jelly Roll. Me and my pal Jelly Roll here are the kings of Orlando art and history, museums. We got it on lock, and science. That's all
science,
of us. Who works with us? Or
museum.
Let me ask you a couple
every
questions.
museum.
You just called it a museum. Let me ask you a question.
That's art. That's my art.
That's art. That's your art. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do we work with the Science Center?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Do we work with the Orlando Regional History Center?
Yes, we do.
Do we work with the Orlando Museum?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay.
Museum of Art.
Okay, the Museum of Art. Yes.
And now the History and Art Museum of Maitland.
Maitland Museum.
Which I live in.
We're getting all the museums.
I run by it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell is that? You're like, he runs by and he's like, that's a fancy museum.
There. What's going on?
We're scaring our guests. He has no idea what he walked into today.
No.
But I'm glad you reminded me. I'm glad that you reminded that we needed to do the art proclamation. We are the kings of art, and no one can even do you any other show working with any artists? Show me. They're not doing it.
So speaking of the Art and History Museum of Maitland, they have an exhibit there called Man and Machine.
It is really good.
And we have the artist that has created this entire exhibit, and it's super cool.
Yeah.
And we were looking at it this morning, and I can't even understand how you make some of the stuff.
It's also got a bit of a disruption aspect to it because, and we'll get into that a little bit.
Let me see if I can pronounce his name.
Yeah, do it.
I did grow up in Miami,
Yeah.
so
No worries,
I should be able to. But I've been living in Honky Town for too long.
Here we go.
I got up here.
Hold on, we're the kings of Orlando Honky Town art.
When I got up here, I was kissing everybody on the cheek.
Yeah,
I was bringing my Miami style, and then everybody's like backing off. I'm like, they don't do this in Central Florida. I don't
He would do a lot of cheek kisses.
Very European, you know.
But that's what they do in Miami.
Yeah.
And then I got up here, and all the honky influence.
You started working with,
I lost my
Florida
Spanish
cattlemen.
Mauro is here.
Yeah.
How you doing, Mauro?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great, you guys.
Sorry about all this.
We apologize. It had to be done, though.
No, this is fun.
Sometimes we're not really good at giving ourselves flowers, and we deserved a bouquet there. We deserved a bouquet for somebody's got to champion art.
So explain the exhibit because it is super cool, and we have been into AI recently. So I want to talk about how AI is infused into this.
Right. So it's at the Maitland Art Center, or known as the Art and History Museums of Maitland as well.
Yeah.
And it's just an exhibit. I worked there over the last year. I had a residency there, so it's like a 1-year appointment where they provide me with a studio, and I get to just work there, sort of uninterrupted. And yeah, it was really, really amazing, for young emerging artists to kind of have a space and a place to work and get something done and really, channel all of that for a year, without working in my kitchen or having to pay for some expensive space. So it was really amazing. And so the exhibit I was able to develop, Man and Machine, it's sort of about men and our struggles in life and, our equation of our value with our physical abilities and sort of equating us to machines and, also talking about that idea of becoming outdated and getting replaced by the machine. And all that sort of combined, with the onset of AI and also sort of men's mental health. Yes. So it's a big, complicated thing, but also I think I made it very approachable for men because it's woodworking, it's engraving, it's kinetic sculpture.
This is very popular right now as I'm seeing the interwovings of maybe the feature film The Wild Robot. I see the parallels. One could draw parallels here between your art and mainstream robot to movie art.
So now I understand everything you're saying, but our listeners, they're real dumb.
They're real dumb.
Yeah, I can.
As you knew from the intro, we know we're cold.
I mean, every day we're with art. But these guys, they look up at us and they're like, look, I am.
Right, but I think that's a really important point to make because, you don't want to make art that ostracizes people by being so weird or confusing to look at. You don't even know what you're looking at.
Do you know 14%? Only 14% of overweight people enjoy art. Did you know that?
How did they even get that?
I don't know.
It's a lot of walking. You got to walk a lot.
I read it this morning in preparation for you. Exactly. It's a very odd statistic, but it's out there.
Yeah, that's really strange.
I know.
So if you look at the exhibit online, it's described as wood carving mixed with AI-assisted machinery.
Right.
And so
immediately I thought people that do art and wood carving would see the last line and be like, uh-oh, that's what I meant by disruption.
Right.
Anytime you take AI and infuse it into, quote, art, sometimes artists get rattled.
Right. So, explain how you make these sculptures because they are amazing.
Right. So it's a combination sort of digital process, but also there's a lot of drawing involved. So some of the work, features these sort of really elaborate engravings, which kind of start as a digital artwork, and then those, where the AI comes in, is those get translated into vector files, and then a CNC machine can eventually engrave those, right? But there's certain interpretations that essentially happen. My drawing gets interpreted by the AI, and then that's what ends up getting carved, right? So it's
interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. So is there? Am I correct in thinking that you, as an artist, once you have inputted your art, or you input your art into the AI program, is there a point when you take your hands off of it and AI is then making a decision that gives it freedom?
Yeah, and not quite. I wouldn't quite say freedom.
Okay.
It is all very controlled.
Sure.
I would say I'm not just letting the AI do whatever it wants, but it's AI assisted, right? It interprets what I give it into code, into numerical code, right? And so it's sort of this one step removed process. Some people equate it to printmaking, where you have a block and then you print that block, right? But my block happens to be digital, and then the AI interprets the final image of that, and that's kind of what the print you get, right?
Is it it's kind of cool in a way that you don't have to code, right?
No, I don't have to code. No.
So you are able to I'm like you in a weird way, because the way I use AI is purely from a non. I always use it from a creative standpoint. I am a creative guy.
You use it for art.
I've written silly songs with it. I've done art.
Absolutely,
and stuff like that. But I'm always controlling it. But I also never let it, I force it to do what I want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a key point with the whole AI and art thing is that, you don't want AI to make the art. You want the AI to do everything else, so I have time to do the art, right? And so that's the point here, right? So the AI is not taking over. It is just a tool I'm using, and it is interpreting what I'm doing it, but in a very, what I'm telling it to do in a very controlled way. But, I also think it's important to, if I'm going to speak about men and these subjects, to make the art of, something that we identify with. And men love tools, and we love technology and gears and moving things and things like that. So I think it's really important to incorporate that into the work to comment on it afterwards.
Sure. I want to know your background as far as, how did you learn to do any of this? Like, what led you? You know, it's a very unique skill set.
Yeah.
And it is. And it's
did you start non-digitally or non-AI infused? In a way?
Well, the wood carving,
and then you were like, you know what? I want to be in this world.
I mean, it's a long way coming. You know, I mean, it's like asking an artist, how did you make that so quickly, right? And well, the real answer is it wasn't quick. It was 15, 20 years of working up my practice, my ideas, my methodologies to get to that point.
Sure.
But, you know, I was sort of predisposed for this in a way. I grew up in Switzerland. You know, I'm from there. My father was a carpenter. So I grew up sort of looking at that kind of stuff and playing with it. And then eventually I immigrated to the United States in 2001. And, you know, got to school eventually, and I just fell in love with art, and I've always been into technology. You know, I was that weird kid taking apart my mom's hairdryer to figure out what it does, and it just all kind of culminated in this, you know, that addition of the advanced technology was just for fun for me, you know, something I learned here in school. I mean, I went to school here, UCF.
Right on.
Both undergrad and grad school.
Did your dad teach you how to wood carve?
No.
They were like that. He just happened to be, and then it's like you borrowed.
No. Or was he like the typical dad? He's like, don't get into wood carving.
No, like
my dad was like, you're not going to do what I do.
No, he didn't actually force it at all in any way, or he didn't tell me to not do it. But you know, my dad was like sort of my hero growing up in many ways. You know, he was this larger than life guy who sort of always worked really hard, and I just I emulated that from a young age. And so I just really fell in love with the woodworking. But you know, he does something totally different. He does like functional carpentry stuff.
What are his thoughts on like what you do and where you've taken like your style of art and or carpentry?
I mean, he came to see the exhibit actually this past Friday at the opening, and he was
rubbish.
He hated it. He disowned me on the spot. No, he loved it. You know, he was kind of blown away. You know, it's a very different thing, and it's, you know, and that's part of the work too, is, you know, that conversation about men and our vulnerabilities. And he sort of almost didn't know what to say, but in a really good and sweet way. So it was really great.
It's also cool to see generationally different versions of sort of a same lane. You know, like you have functioning furniture or woodworking, and then you have this like completely bananas artwork. And then I noticed on some of yours, there's also a very human aspect to it. And tell me if this is what you were going for or no. But like I liked how like even when you were drawing things, that the Sharpie is just sort of taped to the machine doing it. You know what I mean? It almost made it feel more like really like art instead of it being like a computer.
You noticed that tape on there.
I thought it was cool.
No, honestly, that's just. I'm a man of
necessity, right?
Right. I'm a man of simple solutions. You know, usually the answer is within 10 feet of you, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes
painter's table works.
That just works. You know, it just works, and
because the art's incredible. I think on that one too. You're like, look at me, I'm drawing in the, you know.
And there's a bit of information that sort of gets distorted or lost, if you will, when you do something like that, and that's part of the beauty of it. You know, that you don't have this like perfect mark every time. You know, kind of a little bit of that unexpectedness actually adds a lot of like love and warmth to the work. You know, that's why I love using wood too. It's such an unpredictable material. You never know what's going to be under there. So I just think it makes the work really like warm and feel sort of easy to identify with the work, you know.
Now, you're a UCF guy, correct?
Yeah.
And so when me and Daniel graduated UCF, I'm just curious how you made it to Central Florida and to UCF.
Well, we immigrated to St. Augustine. My family did, and then eventually, you know, it was time to go to college, and I just loved Orlando. I just loved the city and went to school there, and then, you know, eventually found my way to the arts. And for my grad school here, I just had really some good connections with some professors here in town. I didn't want to lose those relationships, and I felt that was really important to sort of further develop, and I ended up kind of connecting with some of those people at UCF, and it really just it was just a wonderful experience, you know, just to kind of stay here. And you know, most people don't go somewhere else for their grad experience, but I just love this place. And I had a great professor named Ryan Bisons who was really into CNC technology. You know, he taught me a lot about it, and sort of
Ryan
Bison's. Yeah, he doesn't work there anymore, unfortunately.
Used to be an old fat radio DJ here in town named Ron Bison. Ron Bison he was on K92, the country station. It was Ron Bison in the morning.
Unrelated,
Yeah, completely unrelated. It was Bison's. This is Bison.
Yeah.
Mara, I want to set up a scenario for you because
we have some other class of 05 UCF babies in there. They're yelling him on. They're cheering him on.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And by the way, people love your art.
That's
the
great.
The chat room is completely enamored with you.
Yeah,
they like you.
So let's say I'm at the Maitland Art Museum, and I'm wandering through the exhibit, and I've always wanted to do what I like to call oil tycoon, where I see a piece that moves me,
right?
And then I'm like,
look at this stunning display.
I have to have this, and then you
go get the little man with the glasses, and then he puts a tiny green sticker on it, which means it's been purchased.
Well, it's not for sale.
No, you gotta have those little stickers.
But if they wanted to purchase it, even though it's not for sale,
everything's for sale.
Everything's for sale. Like, how would that work?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the goal is to make money, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of those pieces are actually for sale.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone's interested. But, I can always make more, right? That's part of it. So if there's that one piece that's sold that you really wanted, reach out to the artist, find that website and connect, or find their Instagram and reach out. Artists love to sell their work, and also they love to sell it privately because galleries take 50% of the money.
50%?
50%. 50%.
Oh my God.
So you got, you want to make, you spend 200 hours or something and you want to make $1,500. Well, it needs to be, $3,000.
So that's why
that's when you do.
That's part of why the prices are where they are.
That makes sense.
You immediately lose 50%. Maitland takes 20%. Amazing.
That's pretty damn nice.
That's honestly great.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Castleberry takes 75%.
I
don't know if you know that.
But if you want to cut them out,
25%. I think 25% of that is just kratom.
Yeah, just hit Mara up and be like, "Hey, I'll Facebook message you." You can meet in the Applebee's parking lot.
You got to go in between. Yeah, you got to go in between counties.
Yeah, we'll meet at Cappy's in the parking lot.
I'll meet you behind Walmart.
Did you know Cappy's is back?
No.
We saved Cappy's, man.
Cappy's?
These Cappy subs?
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Everybody's heard of it, just nobody goes there.
I don't go.
It's right by the Museum of Art.
It's right by there. You could drop through there. Some say their subs are a work of art.
So I'm curious to what the hardest sculpture you've made at the
I like
exhibit.
the tree blowing in the wind. I think that's an older one, but that is an older one. How big is that?
That's, about, I don't know, 3 feet tall by maybe 2 by 2 feet.
To describe it to people, it basically has a mechanism inside of it that makes it look like the leaves are constantly moving. Right?
Yeah. It was when I was an undergrad, I was making these pieces that were sort of abstractions of nature. So I thought it was kind of fun to make a windless tree,
Yeah.
And this was sort of some of my early thinking, sort of bringing a dead material back to life. This is wood that we've cut, we've remanufactured it into different wood. It's plywood, it's MDF. But now I've given it new life. It's a tree again, and maybe in the future when all the wind has stopped on the planet Earth, this tree will still be. This one will still be moving.
Yeah, I know.
Mara,
that's a very sad fact you stuck in there.
Well, you got to have that little dark humor in there.
That's art.
That's important in my work.
It also tells the truth, right?
It does.
I'm curious to what you think AI will do in the future and what AI could possibly do to art, what we perceive as human art versus AI art.
And just right off the top, because I wanted to ask this, have you had any pushback from people that are other artists that are like, man, I don't know, I like art when it doesn't have AI?
I've had a few people who are like engravers, and they're like, oh, well, it's kind of like cheating. You're using that machine, But for me, it's like, well, I'm using an iPhone and you're using an old dial, like an old crappy phone. That's like how I look at it. And as far as like my art is concerned, I'm just using the technology of the time to comment on the time, right? So, but that being said, I do think AI it's a really risky thing. I mean, it could go either way. I hope it's just here to help us, right? And it doesn't take over.
Yeah.
But it is a scary thing.
It could peel our skin off and boil us alive.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. But that's what I would do if I were AI. I would peel all your skin off and boil you alive.
It's not crazy.
Yeah, and no, in fact, I'd make it worse than that. I'd make you peel your own skin off and boil yourself alive.
And it came so far to nobody had Chat GPT like a year or two ago, and now it's everybody's using it. And you fall behind otherwise. You almost have to.
I don't even do anything over here anymore, and I tell Tom that.
Yeah, I mean, I send emails with it. I do all kinds of stuff with it.
I will only use it for emails if it's a fancy email and I need to not mess things up. So, like if I'm emailing a guest and I want to get all the details in there, I'll use it. But I think sometimes people will call me out if I use it.
Sometimes the email gets a little robotic. It's almost too like cold.
Do you think we'll get to a point where it'll be impossible to distinguish what is AI and what is human created? And then if we get to that point, then is it diminish human creation?
Well, no, it just gives us a better appreciation for art that's flawed. So we'll go the other direction. The pendulum will go back.
Well, then the AI will just start emulating the flaws. Because it just does.
We'll ride that out for a while until we get back to crappy art.
It is a really complex question, right? Because I think AI will...
Hold on a second. I need to point out that Tom and I, the luminaries in this world of art and science and history, ask really complicated questions.
Oh, it's so difficult,
Back to you, Mauro.
Very highbrow. But no, I think design will be really heavily affected by AI, right? Sort of stuff that is not in like the fine art world, right? Web design or marketing, that kind of stuff. AI is really going to take over there because it's just quick and easy, and it pumps those things out really, really well. While I think at this point, the fine art, it still really lacks like that authenticity that you seek in artwork, right? It cannot fake like authenticity, and it can't fake that experience. It can do the technique and it can pull off the visual, but it still has no soul, and I think
it's Kyler Murray.
That's a sports reference.
No, that's a great dude. Tell me, that's a good reference. He got all the tools. If you watch that guy run, he runs. He's the best at running. You watch that guy pass, he's the best at passing.
Right.
But he just doesn't have the soul. He doesn't have the soul.
And so I think that'll be an interesting intersection when it becomes self-aware, right? Because then we're all screwed, right?
You're just like, well, what is soul?
Right. And then when it has a soul,
and then it's talking to me, like, hello, Daniel, why don't you come in here and peel your skin off and boil yourself alive?
So my advice is be real nice to the chat,
Oh, man, I'm the meanest to it. Do you interact with it?
I'm always like, thank you so much,
no,
chat.
I always say things, I'll go like, well, you made this mistake yesterday. And then I'll say, if you were real, I would kill you.
He gaslights AI. He makes it believe.
Yeah, well, we know where they're coming first. So,
They will. It'll be my house, guaranteed.
Again, it's the Art and History Museum of Maitland.
Yes, sir.
The exhibit is now. It's Man and Machine.
Go support it. Go see it. Go support local artists. The chat room loved you. Congrats on everything, man.
Yeah. Thank
really
you guys.
Cool to have you in.
Exhibit is up until January 5th, I believe.
Nice.
It's usually Tuesday through Sunday. It's open. I think 11 through 4, something like that. Go check it out. It's really something different.